Let us get started. So I'm showing the slide now. So let me introduce myself first. I am Ponni Mohankumari. I have around 16 years of experience in teaching and training altogether. And I am with CIPED for around 2 years, training the verification, RTL design and verification course. Okay. So starting. So today's agenda will be, we'll first to see what is VLSI just to create an ambience, and introduction to verification, need for verification in SOC design flow, career opportunities for verification, and how CIPEDge can help you in getting some opportunities. So this will be our agenda. So a little bit of blah blah in the beginning, that applications of electronics. We know that, right? In almost in all fields, whether it is automotive or medical or communications, gadgets, anything and everything, we know the importance of electronics. Even in this COVID situation, we are surviving with the help of technology only, right? So in anywhere and everywhere, this application of electronics is there. Okay. So some history, we know the BJT was introduced 1947. That was the revolution. The revolution for VLSI industry started there, in fact. Okay, so even before it was there, but that actual revolution started with the invention of BJT. That's in 1947 when we were fighting for freedom. Yeah, and then single transistor integrated circuit, that is IC, started in kind of 1960s. 50s, 60s. Then invention of CMOS logic, which was another revolution, 1963. There afterwards, it was still quite quick, right? First microprocessor, then large scale integration came into picture, and we are in SOC right now. So we'll get some fair idea before we start verification into these terminologies. Okay, very large scale VLSI. We all know the expansion. It's very large scale integration within the IC, of course. So the question is, how large is this very large, right? How large? We can say that it's very large integration. So a quick uh, walkthrough. SSI, small scale integration, about 10 gates. It's a NOT gate IC or something. You can consider that as a small scale integration. Then medium scale means around 100 gates. Then large scale integration around 10,000 gates. And VLSI around 1 lakh. And ultra large scale is above 1 lakh, and we are right now in millions of gates. Okay, but still we call it VLSI. Okay, not any other. I mean, this ultra large scale and all is not so popular. We are still calling it VLSI industry or VLSI. So here is one picture which you can see. This is achieved because of VLSI. What is this? This first figure is the first electronic computer. Look at that space acquired by that computer. It's one full room, right? But from there, right now, your one computer you can fit in your lap, right? So that is the advancement that has happened with the help of VLSI. Okay, so this is achieved. We can surely say that this is achieved just because of VLSI. Before proceeding, just a quick check if there is any issue. Just a quick check. I'll come back. No issues. That means it's fine. Okay. So coming back. Okay. So a little bit of again Moore's law. So Moore's law says that every 18 months the number of transistors in an IC is gonna double. That is what Moore's law says. That means every 1.5 years, if it was 100 gates in 1 year, after 1.5 years, it will definitely become 200 gates. That means it doubles every 1.5 years. Okay, so till now Moore's law was obeyed almost very closely, right? So whether Moore's law continues to stay there or whether it will saturate, it's a different research area. I'm not getting into that, but until now, the Moore's law is in place or on track. Okay. So the essence is every year the transistor count is getting increased. The complexity is getting increased. Then a timeline of technology nodes. So we should know what a technology node means. Technology node means the size of a transistor. We normally use technology node. For example, 180 nanometer is the current technology. If somebody says, that means a transistor inside your IC is 180 nanometer, means 180 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters. That's the length of one transistor. Length of the one transistor, again, you know, the distance between source and drain, we normally call it as the length of the transistor. So we can broadly say that it's the size of the transistor is 180 nanometer. After some years, we saw that, this 180 nanometer got reduced to 130 nanometer or 90 nanometer. So let's take the easy calculation, 180 nanometer to 90 nanometer. What is that we are achieving? The size of the transistor is reduced to half. That means if there were 10 gates in one IC, now I can pack around 20. In place of 10, I could now pack 20 transistors into one IC. So the more number of more design I could pack into one single IC, right? So that is the advantage of decreasing the technology nodes. So having said the introduction to technology nodes, now look at the graph. In 2002, it was 180 nanometer. In 2004, it became 130, then 90, then 65, now 40 nanometer, 28 nanometer, 20 nanometer, 16. Now it is like 7 and 3 research is going on. So that much we could reduce the size of the transistor. So by reducing the size of the transistor, we are packing more and more transistors into the IC, or more and more logic into the IC. So is it so easy if you ask me? No. When you try to reduce the transistor, a lot of other considerations we have to consider. What about the timings? What about the power consumption, etc., etc. Right? So some work is going on in that level, like how to reduce the size of the transistor and pack more and more transistors into one IC. The timeline of electronic devices. So as I said earlier, in 40 to 50, 1940 to 50 range, transistor came into picture. Then 50 to 60 time ICs, integrated circuits, came into picture. 60 to 70 processors started, then 70 to 80 DSP processor, then FPGA, then now we are talking about SoC. So what's an SoC? System on chip. Means not only just it is meant for one particular DSP processor. No, it can accommodate DSP processor, then memory, then IO. So a complete system into one chip. We are there. Okay, so the complexity has increased to that level. Then VLSI domain, we can think of as a combination of these things like design part, EDA tools, and manufacturing technology. In the design part, what comes? Circuit design or programming and analysis of the design, all those things comes into the design part. Then comes EDA tools. EDA tool means what? The tools which help you in the VLSI flow. What all things you want to do in VLSI. Without EDA tools, it would not have been possible at all. So lot of tool help we are getting from this section. Okay, EDA tool section. Then comes, once the design is made with the help of EDA tools, then it goes to the fabrication side. Okay, so there comes a manufacturing technology. In what technology node you want to make that IC, all those comes in the manufacturing technology. Okay, so lot and lots of jobs are available in the design and in the EDA tools, and of course in manufacturing technology, but not much for electronics engineers in India. In India, we don't have any fabrication unit, as you know. Okay, but a lot of services, design as well as EDA tools, job opportunities are there in India for VLSI. Moving forward, some semiconductor industry or VLSI industry. Mainly, we call it a semiconductor industry. Okay, it's a collection of companies, those who do the design and fabrication of semiconductors. So the semiconductors in very dominant companies are like Intel, AMD, Qualcomm, Nvidia, Broadcom, etc. And there are some service companies, of course, Wipro, Samsung kind of companies. Then EDA companies include Synopsys, Cadence, Mentor Graphics, These are the EDA companies who develop the tools for us to make our life easy. Okay, coming to design abstraction level. See, I am quickly walking you through all these things, okay, because it should not be boring, because our main idea is to talk about verification. So before getting there, I just want to make sure that you are refreshed with all the terminologies and all the basic concepts which will help me to explain further things, So kindly bear with me. Those who already know these things, kindly bear with me. I have seen some freshers here, so we have to accommodate them also, right? So I'm a little bit I'm spending some time in these things. Okay. So design abstraction level. So this figure clearly breaks it down from SOC to the device. It breaks it down. So SOC, as I said earlier, SOC is something like this. Look at this. You have memory. It is a complete chip. You imagine this full box as a chip, okay, with some connections coming out. Fine. So this is memory. This is some RF unit, some mixed signal unit, some interface, some DSP, some processor, some configurable hardware, some peripherals, etc., etc. All these things are packed into one single IC. You got some idea? Now onward, when somebody says SOC, this picture should come to your mind. All these units integrated to one single IC. That is system on chip. Fine. So if you break down SOC, it comes to module level. Look at this. Module level means, see, memory is a module. Processor is a module. DSP is a module. You getting the idea? So that is this module level. Now, if you break open the module, you can see gate level circuits in that. So a gate level circuit will look like something. This is a gate level circuit for a 1-bit ALU. Just the simplest of the simple example I have taken. A 1-bit ALU. Look at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gates are there here. Okay, this is called gate level circuit. Going back, if you break open this gate, one of the gates, you can see the circuit level. So circuit level NAND gate, for example, if there is a NAND gate, 2-input NAND gate, the circuit looks like this. Okay. Now going back, if you consider the circuit, each one is what? Transistor. So that becomes device level. You have NMOS transistor and PMOS transistor, right? So this is the whole picture. So SOC is broken down into modules broken down to gates into circuits, and circuit to device. This is the design abstraction. This is the highest abstraction and this is the lowest abstraction. So that's the key word. Keep that in mind. It comes again. Having said all these things, now let us briefly look into the ASIC design flow. This is again for the freshers. If you are planning to design an ASIC, application specific IC for a particular application, for a washing machine or for just a processor I want to make, or a system on chip I want to make, a complete IC I want to make, I have to start from where? To start from the design specifications. Design specifications lay out what all are the requirements for the user. Okay, user should have this particular feature and this particular feature, and it should consume only this much power. This should be the speed of the application. So all these things comes under the design specification. Once the design specification is laid down, then it's the role of the RTL engineers to convert that design specifications into an RTL design, where he writes the code for each application, for each feature specified in the design specification. He'll be writing code for that in hardware description language, that's Verilog, VHDL, or System Verilog. So understand this point very clear. RTL engineer will be doing this job of writing the code for the design. Right? Once the code is done, it goes for functional verification. So that is another set of engineers called verification engineers, who does what? Verify whether the RTL engineer has written the code correctly, so that it is giving me this particular output for this particular specification or feature. So the verification engineer will be checking whether the functionality is correct or not. So right now I have used two terminologies: RTL engineer, RTL design engineer, and verification engineer. So I hope you have got the clear idea what RTL engineer does and what verification engineer does. I repeat, RTL engineer convert the design into code, Verilog or system Verilog code, and functional verification engineer checks whether the functionality is meeting with the specification or not. Following to that comes a synthesis. Synthesis, conversion of this Verilog code into a gate level netlist. From the gates, it goes to the physical design part, where physical design means placement, routing, layout, and how exactly you will place all these gates or all these circuits into the real IC. So that comes the physical design phase. Okay, sign off means timing and physical verification. Okay, fine, everything is fine. It goes to fabrication. Where fabrication unit is somewhere, the original IC is getting fabricated, and package and test is the next process. Means once it comes out of the fabrication, you need to check whether the IC is working properly or not with respect to the given specifications. Okay, so there are two times checking happening. One is functional verification, which happens in the design stage itself. It happens in the design stage, and one verification that is term named as test. Normally in the VLSI industry, we use two words: verification and test. Verification happens in the design stage, and testing happens once it is manufactured and coming out of the fabrication unit. Okay, so starting, I hope you again got some idea. If you want an IC to be manufactured, these are the steps uh, you need to undergo. Okay, so I use this as a chance to tell you that there are a lot of job available in each section. Okay, each step you take, there lies job opportunities. Okay, to lay down design specification, yes, it's a job opportunity. I mean, it's a job only, right? You need people to sit down and study various factors and get the specification documented properly. Yes, it's a job done by people, VLSI experts. Okay, then it's not straight away. Actually, it is not straight away going to RTL description. It is before that comes the high level architectural design. Okay, corresponding to design specification, what are blocks you need? Do you need memory? Do you need a processor, etc., etc.? So architectural design will come into picture. Then micro architectural, each block break into small units and places. So that is micro architecture. Only after that there will be some one big team of RTL engineers. Again, it will be divided into blocks. Okay, this team will be doing the memory part, this team will be doing the processor part, like that. They'll get divided into RTL engineers team. Then functional verification team. Then comes synthesis team. Then DFT engineers. Then physical design engineers. You getting my idea? So a lot of jobs are available everywhere, but for freshers, at this point itself, I want to mention, for freshers, normally RTL engineer level, they'll get some opportunity. Verification level, they'll get some opportunity. DFT and physical design. These are the main job opportunities available for freshers in the field. Okay, rest of the thing, it's not for freshers. Okay, you have to get into the industry slowly. You have to grow to that layout or CMOS analog circuit design, and all will go through that path, not from the freshers path. Okay. Okay, let me proceed. So RTL design, I want to talk a little bit more about that. That is, RTL means register transfer level, or is an abstraction for defining the digital portion of the design. So as I said, a proper SOC will be having digital as well as analog part, right? You will be having some PLL or some other analog mixed signal blocks. Okay, so RTL is useful only for the digital part. Fine. So the micro design, as I said, micro design is converted to Verilog or VHDL or system Verilog code using synthesizable construct. The word synthesizable is very important because after this verification, you have to synthesize your circuit, synthesize your design into gate level circuit. So using synthesizable constructs, you will be converting that design into the Verilog code. Okay. Then, as you know, those who know more about Verilog knows that you have got some 2, 3 design styles in Verilog, that is behavioral modeling, structural modeling, and data flow modeling. Mostly 90-95% of the design will be done in behavioral modeling. I can quickly guide you through um, with a simple example, so that again, as I said you, in order to make our explanations easy in the further stage, I just want to show a mux design. Okay, right now forget about the SOC design or a SIG design, because we cannot take that example right now. So I have taken the simplest one example, that is 4:1 mux. As everybody knows what's a mux, it converts 4 input channels are there and 1 output channel is there. Out of these 4 input channels, at a time, only 1 input channel get passed to the output, right? One input channel gated to the output based on the signal given in the select line. Okay, so the select line determines which signal to be passed. If select line is 0, 0, I0 gets passed to the output. If the select line is 0, 1, I1 gets passed to it. 1, 0, I2, 1, 1, I3. So this is the block diagram. This is the functionality, or truth table represents the functionality. So this word functionality is gonna come in the next coming slides also. So functionality of a mux is explained in this block diagram. Alright. So this is the code or RTL design corresponding to this functionality. So you are converting the functionality into RTL using synthesizable constructs in Verilog. This is Verilog I have chosen. Why? Because majority of the industry uses Verilog, and right now the advanced version of Verilog, that is system Verilog. Okay, VHDL is not much used. Still some are using it, but majority of the industry uses Verilog. That's why I have chosen Verilog. Fine. So this is the design. Just quickly go through that. Module Mach 4:1 is the name of the module. Then I have specified the inputs as I and S. Look here, I have used I and S as the inputs, and output is O. Okay, I have used the symbol O for the output. Now, I'm not going into details of this always and all. Just look at this case. 0, 0. If the select line S is 0, 0, output is equal to I0. If S is 0, 1, output is I1. If S is 1, 0, output is I2, 1, 1, I3. So this is the this is how I have translated my functionality to RTL design. So who does this? RTL engineer does this job, right? Moving forward, this left hand side is called the test bench. Test bench. So for your easiness, I have shown the original design on the right hand side and the corresponding test bench on the left hand side. So in the test bench, if you see, you can see this is the name of the test bench, where this particular line is very important. This line, mux 4 is 4:1. That is the name of this module. I have instantiated in the test bench. Okay, I have instantiated the design into my test bench. Only then it will make some connection. See, from this design module to stimulus or test bench block, there should be a connection, some integration, right? That is happening through this instantiation. I have mapped my S in the test bench to the S in the design, I in the test bench to the I in the design, O to O. Fine. Then what is this? What is the stimulus means? Stimulus means inputs or signals. So I and S are the inputs which I need to give to the design for driving the design. Fine. So here comes the driving part. So what is that word? Driving means I am forcing my I to the value 0011. S is equal to 01 after 5 seconds. Again after 5 seconds I am forcing my S is equal to 2B11. Okay. When I drive S is equal to 0, 1, what will be my output? Please type your answer in the chat box. I want some engagement, otherwise it will become very monotonous, right? So can you just type me what will be the answer after 5 and after 10? that is after this 5 and again after 5, that is 10th second, what will be the output? Please type in the chat window. Some of you have given the right answer. 0, 1 means this is the 0, 0th position. 0, 1 means this. 1, 1 means this is the position 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. From right hand side to left hand side, it goes from LSB to MSB, right? So, I guess you have some fair idea. So we are forcing some inputs, and what is happening here? Dollar monitor. I am monitoring my output based on what input I have given. I am just monitoring my output. Right? So moving forward, so you got some idea. Design is there and some test bench is there. So test bench, writing test bench is the job of the verification engineer. So RTL engineer does the design part, which is on the right hand side, and verification engineer checks the functionality by writing the test bench. Who does? Verification engineer does, right? Fine. Now I'm going more into the functional verification. So what is verification? Verification is the process to verify the functionality of design under given specification before tape out. So it will check whether the hardware which is written in the RTL code is working as expected. So what he has to do, he has to create a simulation environment or test bench writing with input vectors as well as output vectors and check whether it is working correct or not. That process is called functional verification. Now, why we are talking about verification? So we have seen a MUX design as well as verification. It is such a simple thing. Why we are so much blabbering about the verification? So it's not as simple as writing a test bench for Verilog code for an SOC, right? Very simple example. If you listen to me, you will understand. For a single AND gate, okay, how many number of 2 input AND gate I am considering? So 2 inputs are there. Each input can take 2 transitions like 0 or 1. Alright. So how many test input patterns are there? A can take 0, 1, B can take 0, 1. So 4. There is a connection between all these things. 2 raised to input is the formula. 2 raised to input. So 2 raised to input is 2 here. 2 raised to 2 is equal to 4 input test patterns. Now consider Z80 microprocessor where you have 5000 gates. Still less only. Small example, 5 gates. 5K gates, 5000 gates. So it has got 2008 register bits and 13 primary inputs, making a total of 213. So how many possible state transitions? 2 raised to input, which is equal to 2 raised to 221. Those many input patterns you have to check whether it is coming, whether the output is coming correct for each input test pattern. 2 raised to 222. 221, such a huge number. Okay, suppose you have a simulator which can do the driving part of the test pattern and getting the output. That simulator can do 1 mega instructions per second. That is 1 mega means 10 raised to 6 instructions per second it can manipulate in 1 second. Then also it will take 1053 years to simulate all the transistors. Okay, for a 5000 gates. Now just imagine the current scenario that is a chip with 20 million gates. Can you imagine how many years it is going to take? So this is the complexity. It is it is time consuming. You have so it is not possible to just test all the input patterns, put all the input patterns into that and check for the correctness is not verification. There we have to apply logic, which all combinations are gonna give me the output of this particular one, which I can ignore. So there requires manual intervention. Just a tool is not enough for verification. So through this slide, I want to emphasize that point. Okay, it is just with the help of a tool by forcing some input vector, check for the output. No, it's not possible. Manual intervention, correctly pointing out what feature to be tested and what all features uh, to be tested through this particular way, that particular way, that and all we need to identify. Right? So the problem is initially we were using schematics for if it was just a NOT gate or AND gate IC. It all started with that, right? So there even RTL was not required. Just with the help of a schematics, we could design what AND gate ka gate length, what should be the gate length, what should be the power consumption, everything we could design using schematics. When the design complexity increased, no, we needed something of higher abstraction, that is Verilog RTL. Okay. Uh, Again, the complexity started increasing from 10,000 gates to lakhs of gates to millions of gates. Then came System Verilog, which could support more abstraction, OOPS concepts into that. Okay, so then we got System Verilog, and what next? We don't know. It's just growing, right? So quest for performance is driving up complexity, that is deeper pipelines, increase in logic functionality, complexity, power issues. The number of flops are increasing to a large extent. So the complexity is increasing, increasing, increasing. So verification effort is almost 70% of the total design cycle. So we have seen the whole design cycle from specification to tape out. We have seen, right? Out of that, 70% of the total design cycle is going into that, into verification. Okay. Then, why robust verification is very important? Because we are dealing with millions of transistors. First point, we are dealing with millions of transistors, interconnections, and stuff. But we don't have years together to check each and every functionality. We don't have that time, right? For from specification to market, it should reach the IC should reach the market in short span, like months or maybe 1 year or around that, not like 5 years research time or 10 years. No, we cannot imagine. By that time, another company will produce that product, right? So we don't have that much time. So shorter, we have to verify a complex design in very short span of time. It's becoming very important in that way. Another important thing is, see, we are not verifying your design in the design stage. You are designing it, you are synthesizing, you are doing the PD work on it, you are sending it to the fabrication, you are fabricating the fabricated IC, you are bringing back and testing whether all the functionalities are coming properly or not. Is it a good idea? Definitely not. Why? Because the fabrication is the costliest thing out of all these steps. It is the costliest. Okay. So if you are able to identify a bug in the early stage in the RTL design level, design and verification, that stage itself, the RTL engineer, verification engineer will identify a bug. RTL engineer will help in solving that bug. Again, it will go for the verification. Again, thorough verification happens. Bugs are found out again. It's an iterative process, and if you are confident enough, it goes to the next level. If it is going in that way, you can save lot of money and lot of energy. All right. So otherwise, what happens if it is identified in the later stages? The whole respin happens. Right. The whole process it has to undergo once again, which is bad. Right. Similarly, that last point we have already discussed. Around 70% of the overall design and time cost is spent on verification and validation. Fine. Now, the verification process. Verification process and RTL design creation process happens actually parallelly. Okay. The design specific, once the specification is ready, it goes to the RTL team as well as the verification teams at the same time. So RTL design engineer will start writing the code in one side. verification engineer will start identify what are the functionalities I need to verify. Okay, and he will just start writing the test. The architecture, he will make it ready. Once the RTL engineer is ready with the code, verification engineer just integrates this RTL design and verification test bench together and check for the functionality, gets the output. Okay, so before starting all these things, see, verification plan, that's very important. So verification plan, that's a document, fine. It's a document where all the specifications to be tested and what are the resources available, what are the timelines, before this I have to complete this thing, like the timelines, all those data will be arranged in the verification plan document. Okay, very important section in that verification plan document is the test case scenarios. Means what are the functionalities to be identified for this particular design. Now you forget about the 4:1 marks which I have shown. Okay, that is no more a good example for your. Now you have to imagine that SOC diagram where you have lot of blocks to be blocks and interconnections and all those things. So for a simple mux, the functionality, you know, when it's is equal to 0, 0, this should pass here. So that is not the complexity now. You have got lot of blocks, lot of interconnection. Okay, so it's very important to identify if read signal is this thing, it has to read from here to here and go there. So that is one functionality. If write is this thing, so like that, that is the functionality. Fine. So I just wanted to emphasize the importance of verification plan where you uh, identify the test cases or functionalities to be tested. Fine. Now, once you identify the test cases, there are some terminologies in verification. Now, see, you got some idea about the verification. Now, in the short time, my aim is to just give you some more terminologies used in the verification field, which will give you some more idea. Okay, definitely not like the complete idea, but some more terminologies used in the verification, like the directed test case, random, constrained random, and code coverage and functional coverage. These are the important terminologies required for the verification. Okay, so directed test case is the first out of that. That means, for example, for the mux again, I am coming back. What are the test cases? I is equal to 1011, S is equal to 01. That is one test case. I is equal to 1011, S is equal to 0. That is another test case. You getting my idea? So what are the inputs? What are, correspondingly, what output you expect? That is very directly you are giving, direct test case. So the problem, can you just think what is the problem with that? If you are going behind directed test cases, just think what is the problem there. If you have some hundreds of inputs, you have to sit and write all the direct test cases, right? If there are 100 inputs, 2 raised to 100 combinations are coming. Some will be redundant. You need not do that. Okay, so if you are sitting and doing that directed test cases, it is gonna take lot of time. Okay, but definitely for some particular cases, directed test cases are required. We have to write directed test case only, but majority of the cases we go for randomization. That means if you have a 3-bit address line, just listen to my example. There is a 3-bit address line. How many addresses it can point out? 2 raised to 3. That is 8 address locations it can point to. 0 to 7, suppose. Okay. Instead of me writing input is equal to 001 or 010 or directly, that is directed test case. Now instead what I can do, I can just randomize the I. So one time it will be taking 00 and next time it will be taking 111 or next time it is taking 101. So it comes just random. So we are automating to some extent. Okay, so we think that okay, fine, random test case is nice, but that also has got disadvantage. For example, if you have 32-bit address, so 2 raised to 32. So definitely compared to directed test case, random test case is nice. Why? Because you need not sit and write, identify each out of 2 raised to 32-bit combinations. You need not sit and identify which case you need to give, right? The simulator will automatically take that. But the question again is, um, out of 2 raised to 32 combinations, my processor is using only some 60 percentage of that. I'm not using the rest of that. And if I go give a random test, it may go to the unwanted location, right? Which is again a drawback. So under such cases, we'll go for constrained random test. Means I am not randomizing to 100%. I am randomizing my signals, input signals with some constraints. So in this scenario, for 2 raised to 32 combinations, I'm not using that 40%, right? So I will ask the simulator to randomize it within this range to this range. Don't go outside the range. That is my constraint. I am imposing that constraint to that test. Okay, so that is what is constrained random test. Because in random, another one more example, easy example to make your life simple is, suppose I have read signal and write signal. Okay, so what are the combinations? Read is equal to 0, write is equal to 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. 4 combinations are there. All 4 combinations are valid, do you think? Or is there any unwanted combination for a read and a write of a memory? Just imagine a memory. Read and write signal is there. So let us identify 0, 0. That means I'm not reading, I'm not writing. Is it a valid? Yes. Read 0, write 1. Yes, valid. Read 1, write 0. Is it valid? Yes. Read 1, write 1. Is it valid? No. At the same time, we are not going to read as well as write. So, read is equal to 1, write is equal to 1 is a invalid or redundant test case. So, such cases, we can ask the simulator to random, but don't take the value R is equal to 1, W is equal to 1. That is a constraint I am putting into the test. So I hope you got some fair idea about directed test cases where I give all the test cases, which is very directly I am specifying the test cases. Random test cases means I am randomizing the input signal. So it is a simulator's job to just give randomly the inputs and check for the output. And constrained random is like giving the random test with some constraints. It is here is a very simple comparison. So if you are reaching 100 percentage, when I say that it is 100 percentage coverage is got, then if it is directed approach, it is going to take this much time. If it is constrained random approach, you could reach that 100 percentage checking in lesser time. So this much is the time saved to get the 100 percentage confidence that okay, all my test patterns are covered. Fine. So definitely there is some time savings in constrained random approach. So two more sessions I'm planning to take. Two more terminologies especially: code coverage and functional coverage. Okay, this is very important in verification field. Code coverage means, see, I'm going to that stimulus block or test bench. This is, as I said, this is the design block and this is the test bench. Very simple one, not for SOC, just for a simple marks. Okay. So look at this. I is equal to some value and S is equal to 0, 1. S is equal to 0, 1 means which line corresponding to which line it is going. 0, 1 means here. This line it will go, produce the output, gives it back. Correct. After 5 seconds, I am giving the input B is equal to 1, 1. Where it will go? 1, 1. Out of 4 cases, how many cases I have tested here? Out of 4 cases for S, I have tested only 0, 1 and 1, 1. That means out of 4, 2. That means my test bench, listen to my sentence framing very carefully. My test bench has covered only half of the code. I'm not considering these part. Okay, this anyway it will get executed because it has to come from module to always end. So this is the essence code, right? This is the important part of this mux design. So out of 4 codes, my test bench has exercised only 2 lines. So I can say that my code coverage is only 50%. It has not taken the rest of the 4 cases. For time being, I am ignoring the default also. Just imagine these 4 cases. I repeat, out of 4 cases, my test bench has exercised only 2. So that way, we can say that it is only 50%. Code coverage is 50. That means my test bench function, I have to be a little bit more careful while writing the test bench because it is not hitting some lines. Alright. Who gives the code coverage? Tool gives the code coverage. Okay. There is a provision in the DCS tool where you can give your test bench and your design. Okay. And some script is there to execute some steps will be there in the tool. And when you click that, it will give you 50% code coverage. Okay. And it will show which all lines your test bench has not exercised. That will give you a fair idea where and all your test bench is not exploiting. So you will come back and modify the, if you want to modify this test bench, what you will do? I'll write S is equal to 2 tick B 0 0 and 1 0 also. That means my test bench is complete. Then once again, after inputting that, once again when I run for code coverage, the tool will give me 100%. Correct? Hope you got some idea what this code coverage means. In simple words, code coverage is the completion metric that indicates how much of the code of the design under test DUT has been exercised. It does not indicate whether the code is correct or not. See, is there any way? Even if your output is coming wrong, code coverage value will remain same, 100%. So, even if you get 100% code coverage, it doesn't mean that your functionality is done or the functional check is done. No, it is not completely done. For that, we need another metric called functional coverage. Okay, so coming back to different types of code coverage. Line coverage, that means whether all the lines of the RTL code has been executed or not. Statement, have all statements are executed. Branch, whether all the branches, if there are if, else statements, or inside case also you have case 1, case 2, case 3, these are called branches. Have all branches are executed. Expressions, state transitions, like if you have a state machine from one state to another state, there will be some 15 states. Okay, for each transition it will be checking whether from this state to that state is going, this state, like that, all the tests it will be checking. Then toggle coverage, whether all the signals are toggling at least to once, 0 to 1, 1 to 0, whether it is switching. FSM means finite state machine coverage. So these are the types of coverage. So when you run for code coverage using the tool, it will give you a report. Line coverage is this much, branch coverage is this much. Like that, it gives all the idea. Now, going to functional coverage. Functional coverage attempts to measure whether the features described in the verification plan have actually been executed. So what is the input to the functional coverage? Test plan or verification plan. As I told you earlier, it is a document where you list out all the functionalities to be tested. Okay, so suppose there are 100 functionalities to be tested for a big module. You have 100 functionalities to be tested. So corresponding to each functionality, you will be writing set of codes. Okay, for the first functionality, some 10-line code. For the second functionality, some 20-line code. Like that, for each functionality, you will be writing set of codes. And when you run this functional coverage metric, you will get the idea. Okay, this particular functionality done. Second functionality done. Like that, it will give the metric, whether it is 100%. Out of 100 coverage written, only 8 is passing. I mean, 80 is passing. Means 80% of functionalities are tested. Whether it is pass or fail, it will give you the report that it is tested at least. Okay, if it is passing, fine. If it is failing, goes to the RTL engineer. But 80 is our concern. No, we need 100 only. Then we have to modify our code further to make the coverage 100. That is the coding effort. Okay, the verification engineer's coding effort to make the coverage higher. Fine. Now, even if you get 100% functional coverage, see now we have seen that even if the code coverage is 100%, can you verify? That is a one important question. Code coverage you got 100. Okay. For example, come back to this example. Here you have written 2 more lines, and all the cases it is going, and you got code coverage 100. Can you make sure that yes, my design is correct? Can you say that? No. Why? Because, for example, simple example, the RTL engineer forgot to write the last case. He forgot to write the last case. You have written test cases and all the test cases are hitting here. But one test case is missing. But still, your code coverage will be 100. So looking at 100 code coverage, is it will you be able to tell that yes, my verification is done? No. There comes the importance of functional verification. Now you know functionality, for each functionality you are setting right a set of codes and checking, and you are getting 100% functional coverage. Still, can you tell me whether all the functionalities are tested? You got 100% code coverage, 100% functional coverage also. But still, we cannot say it is 100%. Why? Because if you have missed out some functionality to be checked in the functional coverage test plan. In the test plan, in the verification plan, you have to list out the functionalities. There, if you miss one point, it is difficult, right? Nobody will identify that. So starting from making the verification plan till you get all these metrics correct, it is very important. Starting from identifying the test cases to getting the coverage 100%. Got some idea? So the new terminologies which we have seen in this session was directed test cases, random test case, constrained random test cases, code coverage, and functional coverage. If you have any doubt, please keep it ready. You can put it in the questions box, as I said earlier. I'll come back to that, and after this is the last slide for the technical part. So after the technical part, I'll attend to the questions. Okay. So verification flow, whatever things I have explained, it is put into a picture format. That's it, nothing much. So design specification is after design, following the design specifications, you have got verification flow, which has 2 parallel paths. One path will go like identifying the test case scenarios, identifying the functionalities to be checked, goes into one channel, and test bench environment where writing the code. So you have to start writing the code, right? Identifying different modules in your test bench environment. That goes into another branch, and these 2 branches will meet once it is done to integrate with your RTL, means integrate with your DUT, and the function will be tested. Okay, if it is verified, yes, it goes to the next level. If it is no, modify the RTL and go back and integrate and all those things. Then it will check whether the coverage target is achieved, whether functional coverage is 100 or code coverage is 100. If not, go back, do the modifications, come back until you get coverage target achieved. That is yes. And there we can say that yes, my verification is done. Okay. So that's it for the verification. Now let me go to the questions. If it is within the scope, I will be happy to explain, as I said, and in the interest of time also. Okay. So let us take them. Can you tell some tools for verification? Definitely, it is coming in my next slide. How to interface a code file and verification file .sv. That Lakshman, that is a misconcept. Okay, interface code as well as verification file, all are .v or .sv. That means you are writing the RTL design in the system Verilog or Verilog. You are writing the Verilog also in this. Mostly verification is done in system Verilog only. Okay. So even if your RTL is in Verilog, it can integrate both. Okay. So .sv so interface code, your question interface code, I mean RTL code. Okay, I guess if it is that, then both it is possible. It is possible to write in one test bench. You can incorporate all these things into one. Okay. How pressure get into VLSI RTL design industry? I am coming to that. How an UDF affect the program? Maybe I did not understand, Kanti. Maybe you can elaborate on that. Can DFT insertion be done in the backend part? See, DFT insertion is actually it is a see, we have front end industry, front end and back end in the VLSI ASIC design flow. If you see, uh, up to DFT we call kind of front end, and from DFT onwards we call it back end, like that placement, routing, layout, all those things comes in the back end part. DFT is still in the middle, okay, whether it is front end or back end, debate is going on here. But RTL design and verification and synthesis stuff will come in the front end part. Okay, so DFT insertion is happening just after the synthesis. Okay, DFT insertion is done in just after the synthesis. Before going for the placement and routing. Okay, so more questions are there. Tools, I will come to that. I know Verilog digital electronics. Yes, definitely. I will. See, career related questions I will take up after this. But right now I'm interested in technical questions because some more slides that are there for careers. Okay. How to do STA in Verilog? Is there any open source tool for that? For STA, to my knowledge, there is no open source tool. It is done using Synopsys or Mentor Graphics or Cadence EDA tools. Okay. You are telling even code coverage and functional coverage is 100. Design is not fully validated. So through we can. So what through what we can come? Good question. Very good question. So here comes the manual intervention. If it was just a tool, why we talk this much about, right? We can just put some random things and get the code coverage and functional coverage done. No. Functional coverage, if you miss some functionality in the test plan, functional coverage, as I told you, corresponding to one function, you will having some code. Second function, second set of codes. So the functional coverage metric will get the idea, will give you the idea out of 100 functionalities you mentioned, 80 are okay, 20 are not okay, or 100 also okay. So where lies the point? Out of 100 functionalities you mentioned. Suppose you forget to identify one particular functionality in the test plan or verification plan, it is done. I mean, it's a bad idea. Functionality is not completed. So you are, if you're looking for 100% correct this thing, never verification ends. We can say it will end in infinity. Okay. So how far you are working for that? How many people's effort are going into writing the test verification plan and identifying the test case scenarios? There lies the point. Okay. So writing the test, I will say if your test plan is 100% correct, then functional coverage 100% has some value. Hope I clear. There are a lot of openings for freshers, but if we search, there are not many openings. Can you please discuss? Definitely, the reason is right now, you know, not only VLSI industry, any industry you take, it is in down situation. Okay, that's the reason why maybe you are not seeing it right now. What are the details given in the constraint file to back end team for synthesis? That is actually out of scope for my topic. I am talking about front end RTL design and verification. Okay, so it is out of scope. Analysis of standard cell comes in the front end or back end. That is also, it comes in the synthesis part. So front end we can say. Can we tell verification plan also can be 100% correct without more reviews from experience? Definitely, definitely through teamwork. Okay, more team, more experienced hands in the industry. Through that only we can achieve 100% verification process. Mapping RTL to FPGA and analysis easy for students. How we can exploit SOC for this purpose. SOC and FPGA, you should understand the basic difference. FPGA, see, to all my students, I give one example. If you have a sheet of paper, okay, that is FPGA. But if you use that paper to make a flower, that is ASIC. You can use the same paper to make a paper boat, right? Then it is ASIC. But if it is just a plain paper, that is FPGA, because you can dump anything into that FPGA. You can run a Muxka design one time, then erase it completely, then make something, then design something else on the FPGA. See, that is the name itself, FPGA. What is that? Field Programmable Gator, right? It's programmable. But ASIC, application specific. Okay, when if you are cutting the sheet and making a flower, it can never go back to the, you can never make the paper boat out of that. I mean, very simple example I'm using. You getting the idea? Yeah, ASIC means you, for that particular application, I'm making the IC. You cannot use that for anything else. You got the idea? So that's the basic difference between FPGA and ASIC. Gopi finally agreed. Yeah. What is semaphore? That is an advanced concept in SV. Again, it is going out of scope. If you are really interested, please track our website. Okay, keep in touch. This is the first webinar. I mean, it's not first. We started 2 weeks back. A lot of seminars, I mean, webinars are in queue. In different areas, okay, in DFT, in PD, as well as in verification. We have lined up more and more webinars with advanced topics. Slowly, in a slow pace, next will be giving you some idea about the system Verilog. Then we will go into the some constructs in the system Verilog we can give. So like that, it is a series of webinars. So this is first out of that, okay. So semaphore annual right now, I'm sorry, we cannot take that since it is a advanced thing, okay. So now that the okay, one more question. In randomization process, can test cases can repeat it? Yes, there are various constructs available. I have just given you randomization, but if you give me a chance, I can talk about randomization for 1 day or 2 days. That many constructs, SV constructs, SV language constructs are available, which I can use to make it customizable. If you want to repeat one particular test case n number of times, yes, option is there. I want to eliminate one particular case from the set, yes, option is there. I want this particular combination of inputs, yes, option is there. You got my idea? So this is a broad thing in the system Verilog again. So as I said, please stay tuned. We will come up with more webinars if you are really interested. Okay. Or another option is please join the course. If you are getting interested, you can always join the course and get some more idea. Okay. So I'm going to the, in interest of time, okay, 15 more minutes. So how to pursue career in VLSI? The very good path is like campus placements, okay, in MNCs. If it is MNC like Intel or Cadence or very tier 1 companies, they will go to very premium institutes like IITs, NITs. I'm not just naming, maybe private universities also, but very reputed ones. You know, they'll go to only those colleges. and they will hire interns, train them, and give them a full-time job. Another option is not MNC. There are some VLSI service companies, HCL, Wipro, Sankalp, like that. So they're also through campus placements, good campus. Okay, that's really important. Uh, then another part is like job oriented training companies like us. Okay, so the MNCs will approach us. Do you have trained candidates on so and so area? Then we will share our candidates resume, and if they are finding it suitable, the project which we do, and your performance in our company, whether it is good, whether you have scored good grade and related to that, they will select your resume and they'll interview you. And if you perform really nice, definitely you will get hired. So these are the various ways to pursue the career. Now, next question is how to choose the right domain. As I said, you so and so job opportunities available for VLSI industry. How to choose? The only answer is your interest comes the first thing, not the only answer actually. The first and foremost important answer is what makes you learn that particular thing, whether you are interested in digital part or analog part or CMOS, or you are interested in programming. Based on that, okay, you like CMOS, but okay, fine, I heard from somewhere that okay, verification has got more chances, okay, let me try that course. That is wrong. Why? Because first you have to give importance to your own interest. Okay, otherwise you will not enjoy that journey. Okay, you will feel here and there misconnections, and it will not be a good idea, right? So here is the interesting interest level. You can see like this. If you are good in digital electronics and CMOS devices, then physical design is a good area. If you are good in analog electronics and CMOS devices, analog design and layout course. If CMOS and analog and digital, maybe you can think of DFT. If you are good in physical design, digital design, went somewhere. If you are good in digital and programming, then this RTL design and verification. Something happened to my animation. I'm sorry about that. Digital electronics and programming. If you are interested, you can go for RTL design and verification. So rest of the things, I think you got the idea. I repeat, digital electronics and CMOS, maybe physical design. Analog electronics and CMOS, maybe analog design and layout. These three, if you are interested in, then DFT you can think of. If you are interested in digital part as well as programming, you can go for RTL design and verification. Here actually you have two job profiles, RTL design engineer and RTL verification engineer job profiles you can apply for. Okay, so career growth in VLSI, if you see, it is kind of all freshers will start with 3 to 8 lakhs for the service companies, and MNCs are paying handful, that's some 12 to 13 lakhs for the freshers, like good companies, AMD or Synopsys and all is paying really nice. Intel, they pay really. So let us be realistic. Not everyone can get into tier one company, right? It's a journey, yeah. But on an average, definitely 3 to 8 lakhs for the freshers. And as you grow, VLSL compared to any other industry like IT industry or something, your growth is awesome in VLSI. Okay, that anybody you can confirm with. How ChipEdge can help you in getting a VLSI career? So let me just tell you about ChipEdge. It was founded and managed by senior industry professionals with 85 plus years of cumulative experience, and we have already trained around 1,600 students already. And we are our trademark is like we are using Synopsys tools, which is the industry most of the industry uses Synopsys tools for their VLSI works, and we are also using the same standard tools. And you have 24/7 VPN lab access, means you need not worry about doing lab. Sitting in your home also, you can access our server and practice for the lab, anytime. Then we have broad range of course offerings, both in digital flow as well as in analog flow. As you see, this many courses, nowhere else companies are giving. Okay, we have wide range. ASIC design verification, RTL design verification, UVM, physical verification in analog flow, again CMOS, high-speed I/O. These are meant for freshers, working professionals, corporates, educational institutions, etc. For freshers and working professionals, as I said, not all courses freshers cannot opt for any course from here. No, because as I said earlier, for freshers, market is there for DFT, PD, RTL engineer, verification engineer. These job profiles only. Okay, so for freshers, those courses specially made course content for freshers. Then for working professionals, we are conducting courses only on Saturdays, Sundays. For your information, I can tell you somebody is working in PD, for example, and he wants to know more about STA and synthesis so that his career could be taken to the next level, So such candidates we get most of the times under the working professional category. Those who are looking for growth in their area or looking for change in the profile, So that is for the first thing. Then corporates, we train candidates from the corporate for like corporate training we do. Then educational institutions also we give training programs for the faculties as well as for students for specific topic wise. Okay. Then job oriented VLSI courses, as I said, for the freshers we have 3 courses: DFT, physical design, RTL design as well as verification. We have put into one course. So it's RTL design engineer as well as verification engineer comes in this course. Design for test and physical design. We'll be starting that in 15th October and 12th October. Okay. Mode of training, this time it will be online plus classroom. That means it's a blended model where first 4 months we will be doing online classes, and project will be, option. It's like we don't know the COVID situation, right? If everything goes well, then we can invite you for the classroom training if everybody okay. Otherwise, they can continue in the online mode itself for project. All the assistance will be given, no issues. Okay. Blended learning model means 4 months lecture plus lab online, and 5th month is project online plus class or classroom. Then class timing and duration and instructor led. It's not a recording or something. It's proper live session like this. After each session, you can post your questions and doubts and all those stuff. So it's live training, 5 days per week, Monday to Friday, 5 hours per day, and it's 5 months duration. Each topic delivery model is like this. Each topic is followed by hands-on lab sessions with VLSI tools, Synopsys tools, closed group support with trainers and lab assistants on WhatsApp and email tech groups and all those things. And very important point is, suppose you are not able to attend for 1 or 2 classes due to unavoidable situations. For your information, all the sessions and lab will be recorded. Okay, even if you attended but you want some more clarity, you can go to the recordings and see that later. Okay, everything will be arranged in a common e-learning platform called LMS. We are using that tool where all the training materials as well as these recordings will be day wise arranged. So any time during this 5 months, you can go back to the first modules also and refresh. Okay. Uniqueness with Chippers, we have trainers with 10 plus years of experience in industry. We are using Synopsys tools, and the course is designed by experts in industry as per the needs of the industry. 70% of the course time is on labs, to facilitate hands-on learning using tools, and placement assistance with leading companies hiring from CHIPED. Somebody was asking about the tools and stuff. Here is the list. Tools used for physical design, digital design, sorry, that is here it should come. Synthesis onwards is for physical design, design compiler, LEC formality, static timing analysis, prime time. Physical design is ICC2, RC extraction, star RC, physical verification, IC validator. Then tools for DFT are scan and insertion DFT compiler, boundary scan BST compiler, ATPG Tetramax, simulation and debugging BCS. Tools used for RTL design and verification. RTL design and verification, fully anything related to code, writing the code, whether it is RTL design or verification, we are using VCS2. Okay, even for code coverage and functional coverage, everything VCS2 we are using. And sometimes we, for RTL design engineers, they need to do the synthesis part. So we are using design compiler, and linting is another process in the RTL design. So we'll be using Spyglass for that process. Placement assistance, soft skill training and mock interviews will be given. Soft skill training by leading corporate soft skill trainers. Mock interviews. Before we send you for actual interview, we will take mock interviews from currently practicing senior industry professionals. Okay. So when you attend that mock interview, you will get an idea how to face the real world, real interviews in the industry. So that is the purpose of mock interview. Then integrated internship opportunities for MTech students. This has two phases. The first is like 4 months learning part, as I said earlier, and the phase 2 is application projects. 2 months exclusive projects will be given for MTech students as part of this internship. Who can join this course? Graduate freshers who have graduated in 2019 or later. By saying this, it doesn't mean that those who are before passed out before have no opportunity. It is not like that, but opportunities will be slightly less compared to the 2019 batches and forth. Postgraduate freshers, MTech students with specializations like VLSI, embedded, power electronics, communications, instrumentation, anything. Okay. And experienced engineers or faculty who have graduated in 2018 or earlier, but have some industry or any teaching experience, interested to switch to VLSI industry. They also have some scope. Course fee, RTL design and verification 90,000 to 6. It was the regular fees before this COVID situation. Now that we have all these unwanted, unseen problems, plus we are conducting the course online, right? So we have reduced the fees to 62,000, and DFT it is 1 lakh. To 65 we have reduced, and physical design it is 65,000 right now. Okay, and discount criteria based on our written test and interview. For top performers, we will give some discount. Then early bird discount is there, and group discounts. If you join as a group of 3, there is a special discount given to you. And 100% money back guarantee. We believe in quality and professional approach, so that is guaranteed. And admission process, you have to take a written test online, and if you clear that test, it will be followed with an interview, telephonic, just to assess the fundamental knowledge and whether you are fit enough to grasp the further concept. That's the only idea of the interview. Otherwise, we are not really testing you, because that is our job to teach you all the required thing. But you should have the right attitude to learn. That will be definitely checking in the interview. Then if you are really interested, you can contact us. We are based in Bangalore. Those who are in Bangalore, you know Silk Board. We are located near Silk Board in HSR layout, walkable distance from Silk Board. For any course related enquiries, you can contact Faisa or Deba, and our email ID for admissions at gpedge.com. Okay. Now you can post your questions and I can quickly answer to those questions. Um, thank you. Can join research scholars. Um, I understand your question is research. You are right now doing research. You would like to attend this course. Definitely, yes. Anybody can join. It is. It's open to all. Yes, you can contact us. Uh, any internship procedure? No procedure. I mean, see, we are offering the internship program. If you are interested, please contact us for this thing. Otherwise, there is no big procedure for that. Ma'am, what is the scope of UVM in verification? Without having UVM knowledge, can we get verification job? The answer will be 90% no. Why? Because see, otherwise you have to get internship in the company. Yeah? Then they will train you on this UVM. But without UVM knowledge, verification job is not possible. Okay, so in verification we have to know Verilog, we have to know system Verilog, we have to know UVM methodology. Okay, so these three are very important for verification job. So it's almost impossible, but as an intern, if you get into the company, okay, they will give you the training in UVM, and definitely you will learn UVM and go to the verification job. Fine. Can you explain easy tips to build test bench in Verilog or VHDL? That is not coming under this scope. Okay, there is no tip actually, but definitely there are some procedures which you have to learn. Okay, in just 1 hour or something, it is not possible again. Okay, tips to build a test bench. Can you explain verification flowchart initial blocks with respect to Mux design? With the verification flow chart, where is that? This one, right? So design specification with respect to a Mux plan, Mux it is not easy. Why? Because here I'll show you the this is a stimulus block for Mux. Okay, but for an SOC or ASIC, no. In one file you cannot write the test bench. Your test bench itself will be consisting of 10 files. The first file is just interface, means how many input signals are there, what are the output signals, everything you will make the list and put it into one file. That is one file interface. Second thing is like what is that? Generator, means what are the signals for driving the DUT. So that will be consolidated into one file. Then comes the driver file, where it only drives the input stimulus to the DUT. That comes in the driver file. Then comes monitor file, where you will take out the signal from the design into your test bench. Okay, that is monitor file. Then comes scoreboard file, where you will have some expected output and what you are actually getting. You will compare scoreboard from the name itself. Okay, you will compare and give the output. And finally, there is a test bench module where you integrate all these files which I mentioned, like interface, generator, driver, monitor, scoreboard, etc., etc. So these many files are there in the system. When I say test bench, this many files are there. Okay, so with respect to Mux, explaining this, I can tell you verification flow, test case scenarios. So what are the test case scenarios for the Mux? If it is 0 0, you find out this thing. This is what is out. If it is 0 1, I'm just driving it. 0 1 1 1 1 0. You are just giving these as a test cases. Okay, what is test bench environment? As I said, you have to create an interface, You have to drive it, you have to monitor it, you have to scoreboard it. That is test bench environment. Test case scenario identification is another parallel block. I hope I cleared your. Can you okay? Can you please explain the comparison graph slide again? Okay. This is there somewhere here, right? So if you are planning to give the test cases in a directed way, okay? So you will have the functional coverage metrics also, right? Functional coverage, whether these particular functions are covered. So for that, a particular test case only will help you to say for sure that yes, this functionality is tested. So identifying that particular test case for checking that particular functionality. If you are using directed approach, you have to sit and think, right? What should be, see, I'm talking about SOC, not MUX anymore. Okay, a very big SOC which has got a lot of signals. Okay, identifying that particular case itself will take time. But if it is a constrained random approach, if you just like that randomize and just run it 100 times, most likely that particular functionality will be verified and it will give tick mark for the functional verification. So more about this you will understand when you know what are the functional coverage metrics available, or what are the functional coverage templates or constructs available in the SV language. For randomization and for functional coverage and all these things stuff, we have set of constructs available in System Verilog which you can judiciously use and check whether a particular functionality is done or not. To those details, I have not gone by because it is language oriented. Once I start teaching the SV language, only then I can ponder much into those concepts. Okay, right now, just understand that if you are using the directed approach, if it was taking 10 days, if you use constrained random approach, maybe in 5 days you can converge to, or that is the time savings, or in hours also you can just compare. If it is taking 10 hours, but in 5 hours you can get some idea, okay, fine, it is verified. I think I answered this question also, functionality of test bench. Okay, fine. Can we go for VHDL? No, as I said to you, the industry is mostly using Verilog and System Verilog. Okay, mostly System Verilog. Fine. VHDL we are not using. But if you have VHDL knowledge, it's easy. It's almost all the concepts are same. Only the constructs are a little bit different. Okay, so knowing one thing is always advantageable to learn the other thing. Okay, so it's not a big deal. I know Verilog Digital Electron. Will I be able to get into VLC? Definitely yes, but little bit skill or see, some more skills you need to know, whether it is PD or DFT or RTL design or verification. Only then it will make your life easier to get into the industry. Otherwise, as I told you, these MNCs will go to the first tier 1 colleges and just take their students as interns into their company and train them and go. That is one channel. The other channel is they'll come to us, training companies, where we have already trained the candidates, right? So they will pick from our pool and make use. Okay, that is one option. If pursuing MTech student can join, if they want to pause the course due to exams, can they do it? Right now, this is the scenario here. Like we are starting in September one batch and October. So if your exams are over, then it's well and fine. But it is just a matter of 1 or 2 days exam. It's your call. You can just take a pause for 1 or 2 days. Not like 1 month pause and all. I don't think it's advisable. Okay, so definitely you can think about that and take a wise decision. If it is just a matter of couple of days, our recording sessions will be there. We can also help you to cope up with the lost portions, but not for 1 month and all. Fine, it's not. Or 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks and all, I will not suggest. If there are any academia interactions, industry institute interactions presently are planning for campuses from Kerala. Not really right now. Let We are right now running the courses, right? So after that, we may definitely think. Then, what is the need of scripting in verification? Good question. So, lot of integration we have to do, right? We may test, we may run multiple tests, and it will give outputs like pass or fail, right? So maybe thousands of files will come out as output file, right? You need to search how many out of that 1,000 files, how many files are giving me test pass and how many files are giving me test fail. One option is go and open each file in that 1,000 file list. Each file you open, check whether it is test pass or test fail. That's one option. Or you can write a Python scripting, okay, or Perl scripting. Just your input will be the 1,000 files, and the Perl wrapper code will give you the output. So and so file is having test fail. Go and check that. You can go and check that. So there comes one application. Another application is like if you want to run multiple things, okay, you want to run this particular code for something, and then you have to run another thing. So you can put all these things into one single code of Python. Okay, run this thing after getting this output. This is file. This input file, output files you give as input. Next set of codes and give like that. You can write a wrapper code using the scripting language like Perl and Python. Okay. Anything else? Should I go back to this charts again? Adil, I did not understand what you mean. Analog layout, DRC, LVS, what you are trying to ask, I didn't get. Can you be more specific? So feel free to ask all your doubts. I can spare a couple of minutes more. So then if there are no doubts, then maybe we can disperse. Yes, the question is, can we go for layout design? Not really possible for fresher. As a fresher, again, it's I will never use the word impossible. One possibility is maybe you can join as some internship program straight away. But to my knowledge, straight away for layout design or something, it's a what advanced thing, right? So some experience in industry is really required for those courses. Okay, so for freshers, it is DFT, PD, RTL design, and verification engineer. Okay, otherwise the other courses are for experienced hands. With 15 years of teaching experience, is it possible to get into industry? Again, nothing is impossible if you are really passionate and if you want to give a try. See, if you are not at all trying, at least definitely the answer is no. But you can always try. Okay, try. You can attend the course and get some knowledge and try. There are it's not like chances are nil or something. It will be difficult, not as easy as a fresher, definitely not. Okay, so but my opinion is like you can always try if you have this knowledge now. You can always try. That's my suggestion. we use Synopsys tools other than Cadence and Mentor? Because Synopsys has a wide range of all the special, I mean, all the areas in the design flow, and Synopsys tools are widely used in the industry also. Okay, so we have decided to, and it is very costly also. So we are using the same industry standard tools, same. Okay, so no change. How much programming is needed in physical design? For physical design, programming skill is not required except for some scripting. Little bit of pickle script, to my knowledge, only that much is there. Otherwise, Verilog or HDL coding is not there for physical design. Which area is good? Answer: all area is good. Then how to choose? Next question is how to choose the course. I told you this answer based on your interest. If you ask us what is the job opportunity level, PD, RTL, verification, all these carry same opportunities. Okay. DFT is very niche and may not be as uh, many opportunities as this other areas. Um, if you are really interested, it is advisable to please visit our um, YouTube channel, and webinar conducted on DFT as well as webinar conducted on PD is uploaded there. Okay, so please attend. If you are really looking into VLSI industry and if you are really motivated, I wish you visit these two. What DFT engineer is doing, what a PD engineer is doing. Right now in my session, I have tried to give you some idea what an RTL engineer is doing and a verification engineer is doing. Similar way, you will get a good idea about that also. Okay, so then based on that, you can just decide. Okay, it's just out of interest. Okay, otherwise PD verification and all is almost the same opportunity wise. Okay, same. What's the use of boundary scan? It comes under DFT. It's out of my scope, so I pass this question. How to know about internship? Please call our sales executive. You will be getting a mail once you attend our webinar. You'll be getting our mail. In that, all the details will be given. You can make a call straight away. Okay, and please inquire about all those details. Anything else? Adil, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gobi. Hope I could give some idea. Maybe it was little bit dragging because I was focusing on the freshers, those who don't have any idea. So they should not miss any point, right? So I was little bit in the explanation mode. But if you are interested in more higher concern, I mean, much more into depth concern, please stay tuned in. We are planning a lot of webinars in the following weeks, both in PD, I mean, DFT, PD, and verification. So I will also be coming up with more verification related topics. So please stay tuned. Okay. My email ID is, I'm writing in the chat window. Please note it down. ponni@cpedge.com. Okay. So I have typed in the chat window. Please note it down. ponni@cpedge.com. And link of DFT webinar session. Definitely, I'll convey your this. I think it's by default. It will be there in your mail. Okay, one mail you will receive once you close. this session. Okay, so in that it will be there. By the chance, if it is not there, please send me a mail. I can give you the link. Or another chance is please visit the our YouTube. Okay, webinar from GPED. If you type, I think you will get it. Okay, if you are not getting, please feel free to contact me. I'll make arrangements. Okay, you can contact me directly, ponni@gped.com. Okay. Okay, then two more questions I am seeing. Thank you. Please, Lucia. Fine, fine. I think then our session is ending. Okay, it was nice, nice gesture from all of you. I thank you once again for attending, and please